Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And I have to talk about this. I really do. I was really not in the mood to talk about this, but I have to talk about this. Okay. Again, I'll repeat the reason why I'm not talking in great detail, commenting on what antics our illegal government and our illegally positioned chief of army staff are, all the antics that they're pulling off. The reason why I'm not talking in great detail is because, hello, listen to all my previous podcasts. I predicted this. I predicted crime rates. I predicted alleged terrorist incidents. I predicted using the lives of innocent people as well as the lives of the army, as literally as pawns in their nasty game. I predicted that our army and government, while pretending to talk anti Israel in Pakistan, will actually be working with Israel, and they're trying to please Israel because literally they are their minions. Remember, it's the American government that put them here, and the American government is with Israel. It's the same lobby. So, and remember, I told you that Trump is not going to be very helpful as the Pakistanis thought he would be. I told you that this time he cannot afford to go rogue. He may go rogue in one or two places where he can afford to, but otherwise he cannot, because remember, it is the Jewish lobby that brought him in. He cannot go against them. So you see, it's all happening. So I don't really need to talk about it, and I don't need to say, see, I said this, see, I said that, and you can see it for yourselves that that is exactly what is going on. And remember, Trump, at the end of the day, was originally the mouthpiece of the American establishment, and even now, he still is the mouthpiece. He may talk about how he wants to dismantle everything and this and that, but that's difficult because last time he went rogue, last time he wanted to do that, remember what happened to him. This time he is going to be a bit careful. He will try to complete his term, but he is trying to do the same thing that the American establishment has always exhorted and aided and abetted their minions to do in their own respective countries. Yes, dismantle the Constitution. Remember, our own government and army are actively working on dismantling our Constitution. As you've seen the reforms, you've seen the way they're tampering with the laws, with the Constitution. You know, the same thing is being attempted in America. So it shows also how the world, as I said before, is going towards a certain path. That path is war. This trade war that Trump has picked up, from where he left off with China during his last term, that is, just the beginning. He's basically, remember, he's changing alliances. Just like how they've made Pakistan to try and change their alliances, now suddenly our friends are going to be our enemies because our army is not our army. Remember, our army is working for America. So, welcome to the colony of America right now. And similarly, the American government is basically pushing for recolonization, and one of their biggest the obstacles right now is China. But the Americans are so stupid, as always. I mean, they are stupid in the sense that I guess it's just that they don't care. They think that they'll go through that too. Is that while he picked up the trade war fight in his last term with China, China had started already exploiting all its friendships in various parts of the world, all the way to Africa, right? And even now, the fact that I find that so American and so stupid when Scott Kennedy says, and I quote, a China cut off from the global economy and society would face enormous economic, political, and geostrategic troubles. Despite this danger, my sense is that the Chinese government believes it has no choice but to stand its ground, and that its leaders will not submit to negotiations in which they are the only ones expected to make concessions, right? And this is on his why Beijing thinks it can beat Trump in foreign policy. Yeah, okay. This the first line, a China cut off from the global economic and society from the global economy and society would face enormous economic, political, and geostrategic troubles. Yeah. A who and a what? You see, that is that is so American. You and China are having a trade war. The rest of the world is not having that war with China. So how can you say that it's a China that is cut off from the global economy and society? Oh, so global means America? I mean, you Scott, can you think America is the only country in the whole world? Is that it? We know Americans think that. We know that the Americans are so uneducated, so illiterate, and so ignorant that they literally do think that there are no other countries in the world, and that when you talk about the world, you're talking about America. See it in their cartoons, see it in their Captain America comic books, see it in their movies and in their series. Whenever they say, "Oh, we're saving the world," like which world are you talking about? Oh, America. America's the world. There's no other country that exists in this world. Very nice, very nice. How very stupid of you. And that stupidity is being reflected in this sentence alone. China is not cut off from the global economy and society. No, it's you. China can survive without America. Believe me. What is China importing from America? Rice? Soybeans? You think no other country produces these things? Hell, we in Pakistan, we export rice. We not only export rice, we have so much rice that gets smuggled to India, and then India puts its stamp on that rice and it sells that rice, and that's all Pakistani rice. That's how much rice we produce and sell. Sugarcane, we export. You know, other countries in Latin America, other countries in Asia and Africa, they do have these products too. They have rice, they have soybeans, they have sugarcane. What is it that America has to offer that other countries don't? You see, that is what I've always said time and again, that America and Europe, throughout history, the main thing that you need to understand is they do not have much to offer. Nothing they have is unique to them. Coal, we have coal. Gold, we have gold. America and Europe don't actually. No, they don't. That is why they never wanted the world to go back to trading in gold and silver. And that is why China illegally exploited a huge part of Pakistan's land to get that gold. So that, you see what I'm trying to say here. Every time somebody makes a step, China thinks about the future and starts exploiting its friends, its allies, its own land to make sure that it will not want for something when the time comes. So China has taken enough gold so that if ever we do return to gold trading, or to trading using gold, in other words, it can survive through that. You understand? It started taking active steps for that. So you think that China was not taking active steps to reestablish trade with other countries that can easily replace America, when the first time Trump decided to lay out this war? Seriously? In fact, if anything, America, that line that America said that, China needs us, we don't need China, is wrong. It's the same thing that I keep on and on saying when I talk about Pakistan, where I say that the countries like America and other countries, they act as if we need them, but actually they need us. America and these other countries in Europe, they need to realize that they are dependent on the rest of the world. The world is not dependent on them. And that is why they're constantly trying to steal and plunder from the rest of the world, as always. That is why they occupied these countries. That is why they're not letting go. They may have physically left these countries, but politically, strategically, economically, they haven't let go of these countries that they once occupied, and they're still looting and plundering. Look at Africa. Africa is supposed to be the richest continent. Asia and Africa are both richest continents in resources, in food, in gemstones, whatever it is you can think of, in oil, in gas. They have it. But they're unable to fully exploit it. They're unable to be self-sufficient. Why? Because of countries in Europe and America that have their hooks on them. It's as simple as that. You know, I'm just going to make it even more simpler. America is going to be the loser. Okay? America needs Canada more than Canada needs America. Canada does not really need America as much as America needs Canada. And China, that literally produces 90% of the rare minerals on Earth, you think, I mean, we all know what America thinks. We know what Trump thinks he's trying to do. He's trying to take over. But that cannot happen. China is on the other side of the world. You're on the other side of the world. You cannot physically take over their exploits, their geographical exploits, their mineral exploits. You can't just stranglehold them into saying, oh, give this to us, give us the monopoly of it, for example. China trying to gain monopoly over the Gwadar project through CPEC in Pakistan was understandable because we're literally sharing borders at one point. But the fact that Imran Khan even sensed the danger of it and put more stakeholders into that project so that no one country can exploit Pakistan's path, Pakistan's port, and Pakistan's trade path, that is what he did to save that. And so you think that you, America, sitting all over there, would want to have a huge stake or a monopoly over Chinese exploits? Seriously, where do you live? It's stupid. No matter which way you try to look at it, it's stupid. Because remember, China and Russia and Iran, these are countries, the reason why they're so powerful, the reason why America and Europe always see them as dangers is because these are countries that stood up on their own. These are countries that made themselves come this far during and amidst years and decades of sanctions, which means when America, that thinks that it is the only country in the world, when it and its European allies placed sanctions on these countries, they thought they would cripple them. But actually, as I've told you before, that the wisdom of attaining self-sufficiency is isolating yourself from everybody else and building yourself from scratch. And that is what these three countries did. This is why it doesn't matter if you hit them with sanctions. These trades that they have decided to come back out into the world and do with other countries, these trades are good, they're beneficial to these countries, but they can survive without them because they have survived for decades without them. They've built themselves, they've made themselves self-sufficient. America may let you think that that is the only country that you can have trade with. Europe may let you think that that's the only continent you have trade with. But hello, you have Asia and Africa, two huge continents, and they have no problems trading with people. And America may think that we are all their allies, and so if they place sanctions, we will also place sanctions. But you know what? It doesn't work that way. Especially when your allies know that they're not your allies. Remember, America doesn't have allies. It just has people, countries, nations that it wants to exploit and use for their dirty work. And these nations, if you're an ally of America, then consider yourself an enemy of America, because America's allies are all those countries that are not allowed to make progress, they're not allowed to develop, they're not allowed to grow. Remember, Pakistan was the fastest developing country. It was referred to as the land that developed overnight. The whole world sat up. It was a rich country. It was a country filled with intellectual, strategic planners that worked hard and made blueprints, and they made development plans. These development plans were borrowed by countries like China and Indonesia and Malaysia. These plans were borrowed by South Korea. Okay? Many countries actually today that are now very strong, very developed, they owe it, like it or not, but they owe a huge part of it to Pakistan's blueprints, to Pakistan's development projects. Pakistan did not go through with its own projects, but all these countries They went through with Pakistan's projects. They used those projects on their own land, on their own infrastructures. They developed themselves. And that is why today they are sitting where Pakistan should have sat like more than 50 years ago. And that is the irony here. That is the whole consequence of being an ally of the United States of America. So one needs to sit back and understand that America is steering the world towards war. America is in its infinite stupidity. It thinks that America and Europe will once again manage to control the whole world and have one world order in which, the whole world will be once again colonized. They will be able to exploit all the resources. They'll be able to exploit everything, the food, this, that, and at the end of the day, they will attain control. But this overly ambitious, this psychotic plans of theirs, it will literally, it will hit them bad. They're digging their own graves, and they're digging it very deep. This war, which they think is going to help them, it's not going to help them. If anything, this war is going to lead to an even bigger war that will annihilate this whole civilization. That dystopian world that the writers have always been so worried about, that will come to pass, yes. And that will be all 100% America and Europe's fault. And their minions that they have placed in their former colonies that they want to use. They want to use our army against our own people and then against our bordering neighbors. And then against our Muslim brothers, and then against our allies and friends. And this is how they will use all those minions that they have in their various former colonies that they call allies. And it's not good for anybody. A huge loss will be obviously the American loss. America will eventually destroy itself. It will. And so will Europe. They'll go back to their dark ages. They will be utterly and truly humiliated and destroyed. But not before all of us also get huge setbacks. And again, I would say that the fault is with our own people. Right now, even what the army is doing, it's so blatant in its treason towards the people of Pakistan. But the people of Pakistan are still not coming out and fighting them off. And that is why I think that our people deserve whatever bad things are going to happen to us, to our country. I'm sorry, but you deserve it, because for 70 years you've been sitting on your asses doing nothing. And these last 3 years, you've seen the repercussions of your silence, and you're still doing nothing. You're still hoping for a miracle. There is no miracle that's going to come your way. I'm sorry. And you refuse to fight. You think that while you're sitting on your asses, it will just, God will send an angel and the angel will just kill everybody off for you. No. Neither God nor his angels are interested in you in the first place, because I'm sorry, but I think you are forsaken. You're amongst the forsaken. Why? Because you're not standing up and doing anything for yourselves. As long as you're sitting on your haunches, God isn't going to help you. God helps those who help themselves, remember? And we're doing nothing. Imran Khan's sisters are being insulted and humiliated. Their time is being wasted. They're not allowed to visit their brother. We're sitting at home and we're mumbling and we're grumbling, but we're doing jack shit. The government and the army are literally looting us with both their hands. And we're sitting and we're grumbling, but we're doing nothing. I'm sorry, but this isn't going to fly. This is why I keep on and on saying, I said this more than 2 decades ago, Pakistan has no future for this very reason. And I'll say it again, Pakistan has no future. America has no future, by the way. Europe has no future. The problem is now the whole world is Pakistan. So where before, as I said, where before we had a place where we could leave Pakistan and go to look for better lives, now there is no such place. And the places that are, we cannot reach. For example, for the past 17 years, I had already reached to the conclusion, the past 15 years, sorry, I had reached the conclusion that no place in the world is going to be worth it, and one should look for a remote island where one can just go and settle down and have a simple life away from the whole geopolitical world. Now, unfortunately, it's not easy to get there. You have to book like triple flights, even though the visa is nominal and everything, but the actual traveling is a hassle. You have to go all the way to Latin America and then back round circle, in most of the cases. In some of the cases where these islands are near you, their problem is that there's already too much tourism going on in those islands. And in some of the smaller islands, the problem is that these corrupt elites have actually even bought some of those islands. So it's like, where to go. It's very difficult to get out of Pakistan. The point is, it's very, very difficult to get out of Pakistan. And then when you have to choose carefully where you need to go, you have to choose very, very carefully, because you have to be able to live in that place. And as I said, there are many islands that are already being somehow or the other pulled into geopolitics, because some of these a-holes behind this whole shit have bought some of these islands, or they have either bought huge areas, huge spaces in those islands. And then those islands that they cannot buy because they're bigger and they're more populated, those islands are a bit nearer the geopolitical strip. And even though they may have nothing to do with it, but some of them are still under the control, for example, of France, and some of them are still under the control of England. And again, where are you supposed to go? So it's not an easy choice, actually, to leave everything and go stay in an island. The most difficult part being getting a flight there, for me at least. So I will say it again. Right now, the whole world is just as bad, save those few islands and those few small countries. But generally the world is literally regressing to this point where it doesn't matter if you're in Pakistan or out of Pakistan. It's all the same now. And that is why I say we are trapped. Those of us whose parents trapped us here on those good times when we could have gone out, made something of our lives, and then, from there we could have chosen where to go. From there, actually, it would have been easier to move, to travel, and then to pick a place of your choice where you would want to settle down free from all of this shit. But because we were trapped by our parents in this godforsaken place in the best of times, now the worst of times have come, so now there is no place to go to, even if you want to. So you're doubly fucked, thanks to the hypocritical, narcissistic, corrupt generation above of us that have done nothing for us and ruined our lives on individual levels, as well as society levels, as well as national levels, as well as now on a global scale. So yeah, so this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz. Oh, sorry, no, I'm not signing out, because one of the main points that I picked this mic up for, Harvard. Yeah, people are like, oh, kudos to Harvard, it's actually fighting now against Trump. Yeah, no, I'm not sympathetic towards Harvard. When Harvard saw how the other universities were being beaten down on by the American government, by Trump, Harvard decided, oh, okay, let's just try and be open to negotiations, let's please the government and all. And the first step they took was to remove their affiliation with the Palestinian University. I heard they had some sort of an affiliation or something. And then they immediately downtoned their Middle Eastern departments. They sort of shuffled their Middle Eastern staff and students. They were ready to even stop Israel pro-Palestinian protests in their campus, But no, when Trump decided to send their way this contract that, okay, you know what, all your syllabus, your courses, everything will be under our control, under my control basically, but generally under the American government's control. Oh, then they went belligerent. Oh, how dare you. Well, you know what, you should have seen that coming. You were literally kowtowing to him, deciding to remove all the things that should have made you what you were. The fact that as a university you were ready to compromise on your students' dignity, the fact that you were ready to compromise on your affiliations with Palestine, and on the fact that you were ready to compromise on the freedom of your students. Your students are the one paying you all that money, all that shit that you have in your treasury. The fact that you're the richest university is because of your students, it's because of your alumni, okay? It's because of the people that are affiliated with you. But you were so quick to remove many of your affiliations, and you thought that, yeah, who cares? We don't need Palestine. We don't need freedom of students. We don't need protests. We don't. But now you're blistering because you have a problem with them because they say they want to control. They've already controlled you. They already have controlled you. Because it is said that basically Harvard made the law, right? First of all, that's bullshit but okay, to a large extent, let's admit that, yeah, because all of your alumni are everywhere in the legal field, in the political field, in the, fine, in the in the judicial field. Okay, let's just say, okay, yeah, Harvard had a huge hand in making the law. Yes, agreed. Okay. So you believe that you had a huge hand in making the law of the land that you call America, but you were ready to compromise on the very basics of that law: freedom of speech of your students, freedom to affiliate with whichever university you want to, regardless of politics. Oh, so that actually means that you were ready to ditch Palestine anyway. You never were for Palestine or for the freedom of your students, or for for them to express themselves openly. You don't want them to put their masks on when they're protesting. Okay, you don't. But yeah, you made the law. So basically, it means that you actually wanted this part of the law. You actually were working to make constitutional reforms where freedom of speech of students should be obliterated, right? And then you wanted to show that, yes, you are basically anti-Palestine and you are pro-Israel, and and that you were part of that law, that constitution, that reform in the American law where it's pro-Zionist. Right? So yeah, because after all, you're the ones who made the law in America, right? According to you, you're the ones who basically made the law, the Constitution of America. So the anti-Palestinian, pro-Zionist, pro-colonialist, that whole thing it's made by you, Harvard University, right? That is why you were so quick to ditch it all, to please Trump. No, actually, you were just going to ditch it anyway. This was a good excuse for you to show where you stand, right? Politically speaking, as well as legally speaking, as well as constitutionally speaking, right? You're Zionists. That's basically it. So, but, oh, you don't want to be tampered with, you don't want to be interfered with. Yeah. So basically, you're trying to now, I think the fight is you're trying to remind Trump who's boss, right? You're trying to tell him, listen, we're the ones behind you. So stay in your place. That's how I read it. Purely hypocritical. Very hypocritical of Harvard, seriously. Now this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.